Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Marty Fahncke. It's very great to have you join us today.
I'm excited to be here, Rocky. Thanks for having me.
And I'm excited for the conversation. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, so my name is Marty Fahncke. I am a acquisitions advisor. So I work with people who own businesses who someday may want to sell them. And when I say someday, my ideal client is 2 to 3 years before they're ready to sell. And I also work with businesses who want to grow through acquisition, helping them scale and increase their revenues and profits at very low risk.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to grow through acquisition, I would think,
Heck
than
yeah.
having to go find new clients.
Heck yeah. Yeah. I actually have a talk we might cover today, which is how to double your business without having to sell twice as much stuff. And we'll talk a little bit about that hopefully a little later on in the show.
And I would also think, I know everyone's talking about the silver tsunami and the changes and all of that going on. But if you're in a particular line of business and somebody else is selling and they're on the small end, they're not going to get very much. I mean, more often than not, it's probably an asset sale or there's not much interest. Whereas if you're already in there and you can roll it in, you can probably pick it up for next to nothing and just grow through buying what other people can't see the value in that you
Exactly.
might be able to. Well,
Exactly.
cool. So we're also here to talk about Profit First. How
Okay.
did you learn about Profit First?
So I actually learned about Profit First because I have been doing podcast guesting for about 3 years now. And there was a podcast that I was invited to be on. And I always listen to multiple episodes of any podcast where I'm going to be the guest. And I listened to this podcast, and Mike Michalowicz was a guest on this podcast. And I was like, oh, I really like what this guy has to say. So I put his book, Profit First, on my reading list. And then I didn't do anything about it for about a year. At the end of 2022, I was watching something on Netflix, and I finished whatever series I had just finished binge watching, and the next thing was getting ready to start, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I am spending way too much time watching television, way too much. So I vowed not to watch any more TV except for my beloved Kansas City Chiefs. But to shut off all the Netflix, shut off all the things, and instead go back to reading, which I used to love, and audiobooks if I don't want to read but I want to listen. And so in 2023, I did a post on LinkedIn and I said, people, what do you recommend I read? And I had some old classics like Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People and See You at the Top. And then there were lots of lots of newer ones that people recommended. But Profit First came up recommended several times by people in my circle. So in 2023, I actually read 61 books, which amounted to 372.4 hours of reading. And Profit First was one of them. And it absolutely blew my mind. Because out of 61 books, like I had my top 10, right? And Profit First was one of my top 10. And the reason is because being in the acquisition space, there is a incredibly common misconception out there among business owners and entrepreneurs that they think their business is worth some amount of money in their head. And usually they're wrong in what that number is. And they also think, and this was kind of media driven because they're seeing these big headlines of these great big deals, but they also think that businesses are valued based on their revenue. And so I have people come to me constantly, oh, my business does $1 million a year in revenue or $2 million a year in revenue. And I saw that 3X is the multiple, so it must be worth 3 times the revenue. No, nothing could be further from the truth, but nothing is more common for me to hear. And so businesses are valued on profit. They are valued on profit, profit, profit. And most entrepreneurs and business owners don't understand that. And so if they employ and embrace the Profit First methodology, they're going to have a business that not only is more valuable when and if they ever decide to sell it, but the really cool thing is, even if they never sell their business, they're going to have a business that's more financially sound, better operated, easier to run, and more of a joy to own. And so it's a great methodology that I recommend for every business owner we come across, whether we're ever going to sell their business or not.
Have you found that if they're doing profit first properly and well, the fact that the buyer can see the actual profit being segregated and removed makes the buyer more comfortable that the number is real.
I would substitute the word comfortable with giddy, honestly. Yeah, if you again, buyers are looking, especially today in 2024 when we're recording this, the profit and the cash flow of a business is the number one thing that people are looking for in buying a business. So if you can show that really honest to goodness sustainable profit coming out, and it's very clear and easy to understand how it got there, when it got there, and how to continue to grow it, then a potential new owner is going to be very excited. Absolutely.
And I concur with that. The other thing that I don't think people realize as well is the owner's pay account. So they think the owner's pay account is to pay them. Yes, it is to pay you, but it's also there to cover what I call your yaya. So I don't know if on those 63 books you got to read The Road Less Stupid.
I did. I think that is on my list, but it didn't make my top 10.
Well, so in there, he talks about business owners going, yeah, that's a business expense. And you know, from selling businesses, that's SDE, right?
Right.
Sellers discretionary expenses, so to speak. If you're putting that out of your owner's pay, they can see, oh, the guy actually meant that it was a discretionary and he's taking that money out of the business for his types of things. So again, it's just trust becomes so important. And when you can show the cash flowing clear as day in a way that, everyone goes, yeah, that cash went there and it moved that way.
Yeah,
I think it makes it much, much more valuable.
without question.
And so is that why you say that it is a perfect model for getting maximum value, or is there more to it than just that?
There's more to it than just that. So it's part of the model, and it's a piece of it. So getting maximum value out of a business, there's really three areas that we look at and we recommend for our clients. So number one is the financials. It's having clean, organized, accurate financials, which just that is a lot to ask for a lot of businesses.
Well, so what percent of businesses do you think have that? Just from what you've seen.
Well, part of it depends on the size of the business.
So
So
let's talk about seven-figure businesses.
seven-figure businesses. So if it's under $2 million in annual revenue, I would say it's 50-50. Under 1 million, I would say only 25% of them have truly proper financials. Under 2 million, it's probably 50-50. Once you cross 2 million, most businesses, when they're crossing 2 million, you're starting to 2 to 3 million, you're starting to get into become a real legitimate business. And you start to see business owners that understand they need a full-time bookkeeper and they're doing proper tax planning and things like that. So you start to get a little bit better. But there is this pretty big gap in the the 1 to 3 million. You're a lot of businesses in that size don't have good, clean, organized.
And even if you get above 3 million, they're probably clean. When you say organized, what do you mean by organized?
So organized can mean a number of different things, and I could go on your entire podcast telling horror stories. But everything from, well, let's talk about intermingling of personal expenses into the business, right? Like you start to get above a certain level, you see less and less of that as the owner is just kind of taking cash out of the till, right? You start to see proper balance sheets with proper allocation of amortizations and depreciations and things like that. Where in smaller businesses, you just really don't see that. And then also just timeliness in your smaller businesses. I've been I'm dealing with one right now. We're 3 months behind in getting anything updated. 3 months. So how are you running a business today if you don't even know what your business did for the last 3 months financially? So organized also means timely, and having, it shouldn't take more than a week past a month close to have everything completely updated.
And see, the reason I ask that is because to me, organized also means that the P&L is structured in such a way that it's clearly everyone knows what their revenue is, right? But then what are my real cost of goods sold so that
Mhm.
I know what my gross profit revenue is, because gross profit is what I got to run the company on. And if everything is intermixed and it's not broken out in categories properly, like some people I'll see payroll, and then I'll see payroll taxes, and then I'll see another payroll line item, but they're not next to each other. They're
Right.
like
Or
six
yeah,
lines apart. I'm like, how do you know what your total payroll is? How do you know what? And even with marketing, like if things aren't broken out into good subcategories, you don't have clarity on where your money's going because it jumps around. And then if you don't have consistency in putting the bill in the same place all the time,
a lot of that.
you can notice that.
See a
And
lot of that.
for me, when I look at a P&L, it tells me a story. Numbers tell me stories. It's funny because I had a sales call with this one client, and I'm looking at their P&L, and I'm like, these three lines, they don't look right. Like something's weird because it seems out of proportion to the rest of your stuff. And they were like, oh yeah, that's where I put my yeah, right? The money they were burying in the company. I'm like, okay,
Right.
can we separate that? Because when we actually separate it and we show them what that number is, they're like, I didn't know I was spending that much. Or I didn't know my kids and spouse were tapping the business for that much.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
thing, but it also gives them awareness. And they also know, hey, this is what I need for gross profit. This is what I need to run my business. And this is the excess I'm taking from my business, because too many business owners starve their business. And then they wonder why they're in a cash flow crunch.
Yeah, exactly. So good, clean, organized, proper financials are number one. That's going to help you sell your business for the maximum value when the time is right for you. The second thing we talk about that's really critical and it makes a big difference on the value and the ease of selling your business is an operating system. Now, I'm not talking about software. Sometimes we say operating system and people think, iOS or DOS or something like that. No, operating system is a business operating system. So there are three main operating systems out there that I've had a lot of experience with. One is the EOS, or Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is, there you go, which is by Gino Wickman. The other is called Scaling Up, or it used to be called Gazelles, from Vern Harnish. And then there's another one that's kind of taken the best of those two and put them together. It's a newer one called the Scalable Operating System that recently came out from Ryan Deiss and Roland Frazier. Any of those operating systems you want to take a look at and implement in your business. And when I say operating system, the best visual I can give you, and this came from a friend of mine who he and I are actually co-authoring a book together, and he gave me this analogy, and I told him I was going to steal it, and he said I could. If you decide you want to buy a McDonald's franchise and you lay down the $1.5 million, $2 million franchise fee, and then you lay down the $5 million for the real estate and the build out, and you do all of this and you put all this money down, the McDonald's company is going to hand you this great big book, and it's the operating manual for the business, and it tells you everything. What color should the floors be? How should the vents be over the hamburger stands? How do you hire people? How do you fire people? How do you pay people? How often do you wash the windows? Every single aspect of your business is documented in a consistent process. And that is what an operating system is for your business. If your business has an operating system, it is going to be infinitely more valuable and substantially easier to sell than if your business has, oh, I'm the owner and everything comes through me. Because if that's the kind of business you are, your business may not even be sellable at all. So an operating system is the second area we absolutely recommend you must be implementing on top of good financials to have a great sellable business.
And I think there's one more thing, especially I know Traction talks about it. It's right people, right seat with the right capability. So
Mm-hmm.
it's making sure that you have the right people operating your system who have the capability to.
Exactly. And that's part of the operating system.
Yeah.
Actually, the right people, right seat is an exercise. There's a whole course module in Traction. There's a worksheet that you go through that you pick, because every person in your team can only have one core area of responsibility. You can't have more than one person doing a responsibility, and you can't have more than one responsibility per person. Right person, right seat. How do you find those people? How do you train those people? How do you measure their success? And how do you reward those people for that? That's all part of an operating system. So really, really critical that you have that in place. And then the last thing that I talk about that's really impactful to the value of your business is you need to remove yourself from the business. If you are part of your business and you're working 50, 60 hours a week, then your business has very, very little value. There's a saying that I've heard that's the more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable your business is. And that is because if you're a big part of your business and your business revolves around you, and you decide you have to sell your business someday or want to sell your business someday, we can talk about the have tos later if you'd like, because that's a scary story, then your business has very little value. So you must learn to remove yourself from that. Here's the cool thing about all this. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I have no plans on selling my business, or I have no interest in selling my business anytime soon. If your business, if your financials were clean and you knew exactly how much profit you really had, if you had an operating system that was making your business and your team operate smoothly, and if you were working 10 hours a week instead of 50 hours a week, even if you never sell the business, doing those steps to get it ready for sale, wouldn't that make the business so much more enjoyable to own, even if you want to keep it? So do the steps you need to do to prepare your business for sale. And even if you never sell it, you're going to have a better business for yourself.
You know, it's funny. I like to network with business brokers because we help get those businesses ready to sell.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't like me sometimes. You know why?
Why is that?
Because if we do a good job, the people don't want to sell their business anymore.
Oh, I totally agree. So, I often tell a real estate story way back in the day. I used to be in real estate, and you'd have somebody that call and say, you know what, we want to downsize or upsize or something like that. We want to sell our house. And so you go in and you say, okay, here's all the things you need to do to stage your house, right? You need to, paint this, carpet that, fix this creaking door, do some landscaping, bake some fresh cookies, and so that it smells great when you have in the open house. And sellers will do that and then look around and go, this actually isn't bad. I think we'll just stay here instead. And we see that with businesses as well. And it's really, really funny. And that's part of why we are at my company, we are not brokers, we are advisors, because we work with businesses, whether they want to sell or not sell, or whether they want to acquire, whatever they're looking to do, we work with them long term. We're in it for the long game. And our goal is that somebody comes to us and says, hey, I'm thinking about selling. And they work, in 2 to 3 years, and they work with us, and 2 to 3 years from now, they go, why would I sell now? I literally don't even work more than an hour a week in the business, and I'm making more money than I've ever made. Yeah, I'll just keep it. And that's, to us, that's a big win. So absolutely. Typical business brokers, they're different. They only make money one way, and that's by making a commission when they sell. So they're definitely don't like hearing what we're talking about, but we're a little bit different, and we're looking out for the business owner regardless of what their best outcome is.
I love it. And I mean, you're speaking to the choir, so I totally get it. So one of the things that you talk about is how to double your revenue without having to sell more stuff.
Yeah. You want me to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, let's
All
talk
right,
about that.
Let's do it. So most people hear about mergers and acquisitions, and this company's buying that company, and they see it in the headlines, and it's like banks and airlines and, great big companies. And most people have very little realization that these principles apply directly to any small business that's out there. And I mean, just about any small business. So what do I mean? Let's say you have a business and you're doing $1 million a year, and you're thinking, you know what, I'd really like to grow this business. I want to scale it so that I can hire more people, so that I can get myself out of the business, right? That's sometimes you got to have a big enough team to do that. So if I doubled my business, then I'd have all the team I need, and I could exit myself out of the business. So historically, business owners say, how do I do that? Well, I got to sell twice as much stuff, whether that's goods, services, or whatever else it is, they got to sell twice as much stuff in order to double their business. The reality is selling twice as much stuff is really, really difficult. If it wasn't, everybody would just do it. And one of the things that we found is that when companies, business owners set forth to drastically and exponentially increase their revenues, it almost always has a direct inverse correlation to their profits. Why? Because selling more stuff costs more money. You're going to take more risks. You're going to spend more money on marketing campaigns that aren't going to work. You're going to hire salespeople that aren't going to work out. You're going to be less efficient when you're driving towards big increasing revenue substantially. So in trying to grow your business, you may actually shrink your profits. And why do we want to do that? We don't, because it's all about profit first, right? So what's a better way to double your business without having to sell more stuff? Well, if you're a business that's doing $1 million a year and you want to be doing $2 million a year by this time next year, go and acquire a business and fold it into yours. There's some really, really cool loan programs out there that actually will allow you to do that with not 1 cent out of your own pocket. You can buy a business, you can double or quadruple your business and be rocking and rolling in no time. Let me give you a quick example of one we just closed. Matter of fact, I just did a press release about it about a week ago. Had a friend who had about 15 employee agency, marketing agency. He came to me and said, Marty, I need to grow my business. I need to hit these numbers. I've got to scale this sucker. And we worked together for about a year and his business grew, but it didn't grow big enough, fast enough. He had some very specific profit goals he needed to hit, not revenue, profit. He needed to make a certain amount of profit for some certain very specific reasons. A business came along and I said, you know what? This is one you should take a look at buying. He wound up purchasing this business. His total out-of-pocket cost was $17,000. The business does $1 million a year in revenue and $30,000 a month in profit. His total expenditures for that business were repaid back in 3 weeks, and now he has $30,000 a month extra profit in his pocket. And all he did was buy basically one of his competitors who was doing the exact same thing he was doing. He took some of the best things they were doing, molded it with his business, some of the best things they were doing, and now he's got a much, much stronger business with twice as many clients, not quite twice as many employees because there was some redundancies. He's made some efficiencies there, and the sum of those two businesses together is more profitable than either one of them was separately. And you can do that with just about any business.
The other problem you solve is finding people.
Finding people in today's market is tough. Hiring is tough. Well, guess what? With the stroke of a pen, he added, I think, 11 or 12 good employees. And boom, just like that. And now his team is bigger, stronger, and he's able to back off a little bit more and allow his team to do more of the work so he can exit himself out of the business. Great.
Nice. Plus, and this is what people don't talk about. And I don't know if we've talked about this much. Until you break that 3 million number, kind of what you talked about before with getting clean books, you don't have a lot of times enough gross profit to put that A team in place. And once you start to break 3, 4, 5 million, you're out of that crunch zone where you're the one wearing all the hats, doing all the work without a lot of excess. But once you grow to a certain size, then your people become much more productive overall, and the numbers work out better. And at the end of the day, your costs don't go up, hopefully, doing it properly, planning it out. Your costs won't go up as much as a percentage for overhead.
Exactly.
And you're able to be able to do that. And so it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, and we have worked with clients time and time again to do this, and it just flat out works. The most anybody's ever had to put out was about 10% of the acquisition cost. So you buy $1 million business, might cost you $100,000. But again, the profit usually pays for that. From the new deal, usually pays for that very, very quickly. And so yeah, it's a great way to go, and it's not something that people really think about. They don't understand how easy it is, how low risk it is. Would you rather go start something new that 9 out of 10 times is going to fail, or would you rather buy something that's already 7, 8, 9 years old, proven, already has customers in place, already has cash flow in place, already has employees in place? It's not going anywhere. Buy that and bolt it onto your business.
And you already probably know their reputation.
Exactly. You know their reputation with their in the industry. You can look at their online reviews. You can talk to their existing customers. All those things.
The other thing is, let's just say I'm in the plumbing business.
Sure.
You don't necessarily need to go buy another plumbing business. What's a other business that's complementary to your business?
So let me tell you a story about a real client we've done the deal. It was an air conditioning business in Texas. They were making money hand over fist during the summer and sitting around twiddling their thumbs during the winter time. So they contacted us and says, help us make our business bigger, better, stronger, and even out the curves. Okay, great. But we did something extra. So air conditioning business, the number one subcontractor that they were always having to bring in was who? Electricians, because if they're putting in new install AC or something like that, they can do a certain amount of electrical, but at some point you have to call in a certified electrician. So the first thing they did, bought an electrical business. Now the two are merged together. That electrical business is busy year round. It's not heat or cold dependent. Next thing they did was they bought a plumbing business. Next thing they did was they bought a pool servicing business. Next thing they did was they bought a pest control business. Okay. Now, they are now a full service home service entity. And so they have a reason to be coming and servicing your home every single month. Here's the key. This is big time blow your mind kind of stuff. Okay. A plumber, an electrician, a HVAC company, most of those businesses are worth right around 3 times profit. Okay. So if they're doing $1 million a year and $300,000 in profit, they're going to be worth $900,000. Once our client put all those businesses together, guess what they did? They created a subscription business where you pay every single month for 2 things. Number one, they're going to come to your house every single month and they're going to do something. Clean your pool, spray for bugs, check your electrical, replace your furnace filters, whatever they're going to do, they're coming in every single month, no matter what. And they guaranteed that if something went wrong, and this is in deep Texas in the summertime, if your air conditioner goes out, instead of you trying to call somebody and hoping they can come within 3 days, they guaranteed they'd be there within 1 hour to fix your air conditioning. As a member of that home services club, you're paying every month on your credit card for this to happen. Guess what that does to the value of that company?
Skyrockets.
It skyrockets. It goes from being a 3 times profit valuation to a 7 times profit valuation. It's the exact same business, but it has a recurring revenue model. Little tip here, if you have a business that you can possibly turn into recurring revenue, and by the way, that's just about any business in the world, that will increase the value of your business like a rocket. One quick other thing I'll talk about is car washes. Back in the olden days, you wanted to wash your car, you'd pull into a car wash, you'd put your quarters in, you'd wash your car. Then later on, they got car washes that were automatic. You'd go through and you'd swipe your credit card, you'd drive your car through, the brushes spin around, and you'd drive away. Today, you almost can't get your car washed unless you are a member of some car wash club that charges your credit card every single month for $20, $30, whatever it is. And why do you think that is? Because that one-time charge car wash was worth 3 times profits. That subscription car wash where they're billing your credit card, whether you're using the car wash or not, and by the way, a lot of people don't use it, those right now are going for 12 times profit. So, a couple of tips there on how to make your business absolutely valuable if you ever decide to sell it.
I like it.
Good.
And just because I believe in building wealth, not just making profit, if you happen to have that company that does HVAC, plumbing, electric, maybe roofing, I'm going to tell that business owner, we're going to start taking your cash. We're going to start going buying real estate that you can renovate and turn into rehabs or flip. Because when your people are doing nothing, we got something for them to do. You're paying
Mhm.
wholesale on your renovation,
Oh, yeah, good idea.
and you're building wealth outside your business. So even if your business blew up, you got 50 rentals that are paying you money, and you can cash out at your 7X and do whatever the hell you please with life, because that's
Great
really what
idea.
it's all about.
Great idea. I love it.
Is there anything we should have talked about today that we didn't get a chance
Man,
to?
I covered a whole lot of stuff, and some of it's going to go right over people's heads, but I hope everybody at least got a gist of why it's important to be thinking about preparing your business for sale, whether or not you ever plan on selling it, and why it's important to think about acquiring businesses to grow your business. And both of those will help you maximize your profits in the short term and definitely in the long run.
And that they will. If people would like to learn more about you, check you out, how do they do that?
Pretty easy to find. My name is Marty Fahncke. I'm the only Marty Fahncke in the entire world, so I'm pretty easy to find. Google me, you'll track me down. My website is westboundroad.com. That's westboundroad.com. I'm also very active over on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a lot of content videos over on YouTube under Westbound Road, and feel free, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always here to help and give advice and help business owners however I possibly can.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rocky. It was fun.
Thanks for listening to this unedited video of the Profit Answer Man podcast. If you'd like to catch the full episode and learn more about what we do, check us out at profitcomesfirst.com. We also go through the Profit First book in each and every chapter in the beginning episodes of the podcast, so check those out as well. Thanks for listening, and here's to you having a more profitable and growing business.